Yes, students, now we will revise the topic of tax invoice, debit note, and credit note. The provisions with respect to this topic is covered in section 31 to 34 of CGST Act. And there is no separate provisions with respect to tax invoice, credit, and debit note covered in IGST Act, which means as per section 20 of IGST Act, whatever we are learning under CGST Act from section 31 to 34, same to same is applicable even under IGST Act, guys. Okay. First of all, sir, what is tax invoice? It is a commercial document which is issued by the supplier of goods or services to the recipient. And it contains the details about the goods supplied or services provided along with the quantity, HSN code, and also the details of the supplier as well as the recipient. Especially when recipient is registered, the name, address as well as GST IN of recipient has to be mentioned in the invoice. And along with this, the date of invoice and the serial number on the top of the invoice, then also the place of supply or the delivery address, then the quantity of goods, all these details will be mentioned on the invoice, guys. And also about the amount of discount or percentage of discount if anything is offered by supplier to recipient at the time of supply, and even the rate of GST along with the amount of GST, all this information would be provided in the invoice. Okay. And totally, we would be learning 4 sections in this chapter. All 4 sections are a part of your syllabus, guys. Section 31 talks about tax invoice and various other documents and what is the due date to issue invoice. Whereas section 32 talks about the prohibition of unauthorized collection of tax. When a person is not registered, he is not eligible to collect tax from the recipients. Then section 33 talks about the amount of GST has to be clearly mentioned in the invoice or any other document issued by supplier to recipient. Then section 34, which talks about credit and debit notes and its declaration. Okay, so each of this section we will be learning in detail. Section 31 mainly focuses on what is the due date to issue invoice. Guys, if you remember, we already covered this topic along with the time of supply of goods as well as services. Because the time of supply of goods or services as per section 12 or 13 depends on the due date to issue invoice. So, but still, we'll quickly revise even in this chapter once. Okay, so as per section 31 subsection 1, the time limit for issuing tax invoice in case of supply of goods depends on whether there is a movement of goods between supplier and recipient or not. So if there is a movement of goods, then the invoice has to be issued before or at the time of removal of goods from the supplier's place. Sir, what if there is no movement of goods? Then the invoice has to be issued before or at the time of delivery of goods or making the goods available to the recipient, guys. Okay. And who has the responsibility to issue invoice? Supplier to the recipient. Okay, sir. Sir, what if it is the supply of services? So subsection 2 talks about the time limit for issuing the tax invoice in case of supply of services along with rule 47. So first we need to check whenever there is a supply of services, is the supplier a banking company, financial institution, NBFC or insurance company? If yes, then invoice has to be issued on or before or within 45 days from the date of supply of services, guys. So once service is completed or provided by the supplier who is banking, NBFC or financial institution or even insurance company, within 45 days they have to issue invoice. Sir, what if the supplier is any other person other than them? Then invoice has to be issued within 30 days from the date of supply of service, guys. If in case in the question they have clearly mentioned that the supplier is the following person, then go with 45 days. If question is silent, then you can always go with 30 days, guys. Consider that the supplier is any person other than this one. Got it? Yes, sir. Then in section 31 subsection 3, they have spoke about few important documents or special documents like bill of supply, revised tax invoice, the refund voucher or the receipt voucher, like that. We will discuss that in a table. In the same chapter, I will discuss little later, guys. Okay, sir. Then subsection 4 and 5 talks about continuous supply of goods or services, guys. So when there is a continuous supply of goods by the supplier to the recipient, whenever he is supplying the goods, for each and every supply, he will not issue invoice. So maybe once in a month or once in a while, he will issue a statement of account, giving the details of what all goods he has supplied during that period. So what is the due date to issue invoice by the supplier is, the invoice shall be issued before or at the time of each statement of account is given by supplier to recipient or the payment is received. If any one date is given, you take it. If both are given, means the statement date as well as payment date, both is given, means consider whichever is earlier, guys. Okay. Sir, what if there is a continuous supply of services, which means the services are provided by the supplier to the recipient for more than 3 months? Okay, more than 3 months means it can be for 6 months, 12 months, whatever, but more than 3 months. Okay. In that case, if there is a contract between the supplier and recipient, then check what is the due date for payment as per the contract. So the due date for payment is the due date to issue invoice, guys. Okay. Sir, what if due date is not mentioned in the contract? Then whatever is the actual date of payment, that is the due date to issue invoice by the supplier. Okay. Sir, what if the payment is linked to the completion of milestone event? Means the recipient has told supplier only as and when you complete so much of work, I will make a payment of so much. In that case, on or before the date of completion of that milestone event, the supplier has to issue invoice to the recipient for the amount mentioned by the recipient for that completion, whatever payment the recipient has committed to pay, for that much the invoice has to be issued on or before the completion of the milestone event. Okay. Next, sir, what if before the completion of the supply, if it ceases to exist, means the contract has been cancelled. So where supply of services ceases before its completion means it is cancelled. For example, assume you had appointed me to provide accounting services for your business throughout the year for full 12 months. And you have agreed to pay me 1 lakh for each month. So I am the supplier, you are the recipient. So I provided this accounting services for 3 months, but you were not happy. So you are cancelling the contract at the end of 3 months. So should I issue invoice for whatever work I have done? Yes. So for whatever work I have done at the end of 3 months, I have to issue invoice. So as I have told you, at the end of 3 months, we are cancelling the contract. That is you. In fact, you are cancelling the contract. So I am eligible to receive a payment of 3 lakh. Yes. So for 3 lakh, on or before the date of cancellation of the contract, I have to issue the invoice, guys. Got it? Yes. Let me read it. In a case where the supply of services ceases under a contract before the completion of the supply, the invoice shall be issued at the time when the supply ceases to the extent of supply made before such cessation. I cannot issue invoice for you for full 12 lakh. That is 1 lakh into 12 months. No, I didn't render the full service, right? Yes, throughout the year. So I have given only for 3 months services for which I am eligible to receive 3 lakh payment. So for 3 lakh, I need to issue the invoice on or before the cancellation date, guys. Oh, next, subsection 7. If goods is sent on sale or return basis by the supplier to the recipient. So if recipient has accepted the goods, then on or before the date of acceptance, the supplier has to issue invoice. But if recipient has been given more than 6 months time by the supplier, so at the end of 6 months, the recipient has neither accepted the goods nor returned back. For GST purpose, as per section 31 subsection 7, it is considered to be a supply at the end of 6 months from the date of removal of goods from the supplier's place. So in that case, should supplier issue invoice? Yes. Even though it is not a supply, still he has to issue invoice. It is considered to be a deemed supply for GST purpose, guys. Okay, means indirectly they are trying to tell, don't give more than 6 months time to the recipient to accept the goods. Okay, let me read it. Where the goods being sent are taken on approval for sale or return or removed before the supply takes place, the invoice shall be issued before or at the time of supply if it is already accepted by the recipient, or 6 months from the date of removal, whichever is earlier. So if goods is already accepted by the recipient within 6 months, then on or before that date. No, sir, at the end of 6 months also, it is neither accepted nor returned back. Then for subsection 7 purpose, we treat it as supply and supplier has to issue invoice, guys. Got it? Yes. Then coming to e-invoicing, that is electronic invoicing. All registered person with an aggregate turnover based on PAN, that is all India basis, in any preceding financial year from 1718 onwards, even in 1 year in the past from 1718, that is the first year in which GST was introduced. In any 1 year, if the aggregate turnover is more than 5 crore, then they are supposed to issue e-invoices for B2B supplies. That is when recipient is registered, guys. Okay, sir. Presently, invoices, credit note and debit notes when issued by the notified person to registered persons, that is B2B supply. Or in case of exports, guys, in case of exports, actually the recipient is outside India. They would have not been registered under GST, but still they're asking you to issue e-invoice. Okay. are covered under e-invoice. Are covered under e-invoice. Sir, what about B2C supplies? They are not covered under e-invoice, guys. Thus, presently, such notified persons are not required to report B2C invoices. Anyway, they are not eligible to claim credit, no. So it doesn't matter for the department. So they are more bothered about B2B supplies because as recipient is eligible to claim credit, they are trying to avoid the people claiming or the registered persons claiming the fake credits, guys. So that is why they have introduced e-invoicing. Okay. Further, e-invoicing is also not applicable to the invoices issued by the input service distributor for their branches and for the import of goods. For export, e-invoicing is applicable, whereas for import, e-invoicing is not applicable, guys. Got it? Yes. And e-invoicing is not applicable in few cases. Just a minute, I will just show you from my provision book. Just a minute. Yeah. So you can see here, for the following suppliers, e-invoicing is not applicable. Even though their aggregate turnover is more than 5 crore, still e-invoicing is not applicable. Sir, who are those? I will just read it out. Special Economic Zone units. Okay. Just a minute. Yeah. Insurer or banking company or financial institution including NBFC, GTA, that is Goods Transportation Agency, supplying services in relation to transportation of goods by road in goods carriage, supplier of passenger transportation services, then person supplying services by way of admission to exhibition of cinematograph films in the multiplex screens. Okay, yes, that is PVR, Inox and all. Then the last one, a government department and a local authority. So for the following suppliers, even though their aggregate turnover is more than 5 crore in any of the past years, still e-invoicing is not applicable, guys. E-invoicing is not applicable. Okay, sir. Coming back to revision book. Next, QR code. Facility of digital payment to recipients as per section 31 capital A of CGST Act. The government has notified that the invoice issued by the registered person except specified class of persons discussed below. So these are the exceptions, whose aggregate turnover in any of the financial year, that is in the past financial year, exceeds 500 crore. For e-invoicing, it is 5 crore, year 20 extra. In respect of B2C supplies, supply of goods or services or both to an unregistered recipients, including the person having UIN. Guys, if recipient is a person who is having UIN, is considered to be an unregistered person only. We already discussed in registration chapter. Yes. So will it fall under B2C? Yes. Shall have a dynamic QR code. On the invoice, the dynamic QR code has to be displayed through which the recipients can scan and make the payment. Is that clear? Yes. So please be careful. You might get confused between QR code and e-invoicing. E-invoicing is applicable only with respect to B2B supply and exports, and only when the aggregate turnover in any of the past financial year is more than 5 crore. Whereas the QR code is applicable only with respect to B2C supply or supplies made to a person who is having UIN, only when the aggregate turnover in any of the past years is more than 500 crore. More than 500, 2 zeros extra. Okay. So be careful while making the payment. Don't put any extra zeros. Dynamic QR code is not applicable to an invoice issued to an unregistered person by following suppliers. Okay. For the following suppliers, even though their aggregate turnover is more than 500 crore, still QR code is not mandatory. Who are those? Insurer or banking company or a financial institution including NBFC, GTA supplying services in relation to the transportation of goods by road in goods carriage, supplier of passenger transportation services, then person supplying services by way of admission to exhibition of cinematograph films in multiplex screens, that is PVR, Inox and all, supplier of online information and database access or retrieval services. Similar list which we already saw for e-invoicing exemptions. Okay. No dynamic QR code in case of exports also, because that is covered under e-invoicing. So when e-invoicing is applicable, dynamic QR code is not required. And when dynamic QR code is required, e-invoicing will not be applicable, guys. Hope you got it. Yes, sir. Next. Prohibition of unauthorized collection of tax as per section 32. Very small section. A person who is not registered shall not collect any tax under this act, guys. So only when I am registered under GST, whether voluntarily or mandatorily, whenever I have taken registration, on my outward supply, I am liable to pay GST. Can I charge and collect this from my recipients by issuing a tax invoice? Yes. But what if I am not at all registered? When I am not registered under GST, first of all, I am not liable to pay GST on my outward supply. But still, can I charge and collect it from my recipient and keep it with me? No, no, no. I cannot do it. No registered person shall collect tax except in accordance with the provisions of this act or the rules made thereunder. And even assume I am a registered person under GST. On my outward supply, 5% GST is applicable. But can I collect it at a higher rate of like 12%, 18% and all? No. Whatever is the rate applicable on my outward supply, I can collect only that much. And that too, I cannot keep whatever I am collecting. I have to remit it to the government within the due date. Yes. Next, 33. Amount of tax to be indicated in the tax invoice and other documents. Section 33. So section 33 is telling the amount of GST along with the rate has to be mentioned in the invoice, guys. So don't simply disclose the value of supply. So value of supply as per section 15 has to be there plus CGST at so and so rate plus SGST at so and so rate, or if it is an interstate supply, IGST at so and so rate, and the amount of GST has to be mentioned. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Then coming to the summary of various documents, I have given it in one single table, guys. So what are those? One by one we will see. First, tax invoices. It has to be issued by the supplier to the recipient for outward taxable supplies. If it is for the goods, then it has to be issued in 3 copies, that is triplicate. One is for supplier, the other one is for recipient, and the last one is for transporter. So what if it is a taxable supply of services? Then the invoice will be issued in 2 copies. That is duplicate. One is for supplier, the other one is for recipient. And for services, there is no question of transporter, guys. Okay. Then we have already discussed about the contents of tax invoice and all, guys. All the details about goods, services, tax rate, tax amount, supplier, recipient, all the details has to be mentioned. Okay. Including the date of invoice, serial number, everything. Next, consolidated tax invoice. As I already mentioned, guys, under section 31 subsection 3, there are number of different documents covered. Now I will be explaining each of them. All these are covered. I have mentioned in the bracket are covered in section 31 subsection 3, guys. So which are those documents? One by one we will see. Consolidated tax invoice issued by the registered person when only if all these 3 conditions are satisfied. All 3 conditions has to be satisfied. What is it? It is issued when value of supply is less than 200, that is each individual supply is less than 200, recipient is unregistered and is not demanding for a separate tax invoice for each supply. In that case, at the end of each day, the consolidated tax invoice can be issued by the supplier to the recipient, guys. Okay. Next, coming to revised tax invoice has to be issued by the registered person. When so? I will just try to explain this with an example. Yeah. Listen, people. Assume I was liable for registration on 1st January 26. So I applied for registration on 15th January in GST REG 0. So did I apply within 30 days? Yes. So as per section 25, once a person is liable for registration, he need to apply for registration within 30 days. So I have applied it. Okay. And registration is granted on 20th January. So registration certificate is issued to me on 20th January in GST REG 06. So as per rule 10, what is the effective date of registration, people? It is the date on which I was liable for registration. So I was liable for registration on 1st January as per section 22 or section 24. So on that day, I am called as registered person. This provision is given where? In rule 10. If a person has applied for registration within 30 days from the date on which he was liable, then the effective date of registration will be the date on which he was liable. Okay. So that means any outward supply which I make on or after this date, I am liable to pay GST? Yes. Can I charge and collect it from my recipients? Yes. But the problem is, for any supplies made in between this, I didn't had my GST IN. So I would have not issued a tax invoice. So that is why section 31 subsection 3 clause A is telling, for whatever supplies has been made from 1st January to 20th January, a revised tax invoice has to be issued, guys. Revised tax invoice has to be issued between for the supplies made between 1st January to 20th January. Within what time, sir? Within 1 month from 20th January. That is, once the registration is granted, within 1 month from here, revised tax invoice has to be issued for the supplies made between 1st January to 20th January. So once the person has applied for registration or once he is liable, he should keep the details about all the recipients for whomever he has made supplies from year to year. Or else, without making any supplies, just wait till you get the registration certificate. So if at all, if the supplier has made any supplies in between this date, he has to issue revised tax invoices for all those recipients within 1 month from 20th January, guys. Got it? Yes, sir. Next, bill of supply to be issued by the registered person who is making the exempt outward supply, or the supplier whoever is registered under section 10, that is composition scheme, both the composition scheme, whether 10.1 or 10.2a. So whoever is a composition supplier or the person who is under section 9 but making exempt outward supply, they have to issue bill of supply to the recipients, guys, where the tax amount or tax component will not be mentioned. Next, payment voucher. This is important. Section 31 subsection 3 talks about payment voucher. So issued by whom? Recipient, not supplier. Recipient. All other documents was issued by supplier to recipient, but this is issued by recipient. Okay, paying tax under RCM. Okay, first let me explain, guys. Pay attention, pay attention. This is important. Have connection to other topics also. Now assume the supplier is registered under GST, is supplying services which is taxable under reverse charge mechanism. So in that case, recipient has to pay tax himself. Okay, RCM, no, that's why. So in that case, the supplier will supply the services or even if it is a goods and issue invoice to the recipient, but it will not be a tax invoice because supplier is not liable to pay GST. No, he will just issue a normal bill or invoice. Okay. So recipient will pay tax to the government and he will issue the payment voucher to whom? To the supplier. He will issue payment voucher to whom? Supplier, telling, sir, I have made a payment of so much to you. Okay, sir. Got it? Yes, sir. And for the recipient of services, when supplier is registered, the time of supply for the services which is taxable and reverse charge mechanism is clause A or clause B as per section 13 subsection 3, whichever is earlier, which means 60, this is as per RCM, guys, for services. That is 61st day from the date of issue of invoice, or that is date immediately following 60 days from the date of invoice, which is nothing but 61st day, or the date of payment, whichever is earlier. Whichever is earlier. Oh, this is when supplier is registered. Sir, what if supplier is unregistered? In that case, as he is not registered, he will not issue invoice to the recipient, but recipient has to pay tax himself and issue payment voucher to the supplier. Yes, and one extra responsibility he has. As supplier is not registered, he has to issue self-invoicing for himself. Okay, this is as per which section, sir? Section 31, subsection 3, clause F. Okay, you can see here, pay tax under RCM and issue payment voucher for supplier and do self-invoicing within 30 days from the date of receiving the goods or services. And here it is services, so within 30 days of receiving the services. Okay. And time of supply will be for the recipient who is for the services which is taxable under RCM. For the recipient, what is the time of supply? Clause A or clause C, whichever is earlier, guys. Okay, as per section 13 subsection 3. So that means date of payment or the date of self-invoicing by the recipient, not 61st day and all, date of self-invoicing, actual date, whichever is earlier. Whichever is earlier. If you remember, I had already explained this in detail when I was covering the time of supply, people. Got it? Yes. And unregistered supplier will also include one person. That is the person. Assume the supplier is registered under GST only to deduct TDS under section 51 and they are not making any taxable outward supply. For self-invoicing purpose, still even though they are registered, still we treat them as unregistered. I repeat, if supplier is registered under GST only to deduct TDS under section 51 and they don't make any taxable outward supply, for the purpose of self-invoicing, we treat them as if they are not registered. So in that case, if recipient is liable to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism, should they do self-invoicing? Yes, they have to do it. Yes, they have to do it. And in this example, I have used services everywhere. Sir, what if it is goods? Guys, even if the goods is taxable under reverse charge mechanism, anyway, goods which is taxable under reverse charge mechanism is not a part of your syllabus, but still, let me talk about self-invoicing if goods is taxable under reverse charge mechanism. If there is a supply of goods which is taxable under reverse charge mechanism, and if supplier is not registered, even in that case, the recipient has to do self-invoicing within 30 days of receiving the goods, guys. Within 30 days of receiving the goods. Is that clear? Yes. But with respect to goods, when self-invoicing is applicable, have they connected it to time of supply? No. Only for services they are connected as per section 13 subsection 3. That's all. For goods under section 12.3, which is taxable under reverse charge mechanism, they are not connected to the self-invoicing provisions, guys. So for the goods which is taxable under reverse charge mechanism as per section 12 subsection 3, what is the time of supply? The date of receipt of goods, or 31st day from the date of issue of invoice, or the date of payment. Any of these three, whichever is earlier. Got it? Yes, sir. Fine. So let me read this. Recipient shall issue an invoice. So please be careful, guys. It is a recent amendment. Recipient shall issue a self invoice within 30 days of receiving the goods or services in respect of goods as well as services so received by him from an unregistered supplier. Okay. So this self invoicing is applicable only when supplier is unregistered, including the supplier who is registered under GST, but only to deduct TDS under section 51. So for self-invoicing purpose, we consider them as unregistered supplier. Okay. And he shall also issue payment voucher at the time of making the payment to every supplier. Okay. See, payment voucher will always be there, people. Whether supplier is registered or not, recipient should always issue payment voucher. Whenever RCM is applicable, the recipient has to issue payment voucher to the supplier, whether the supplier is registered or not registered. Okay, sir. Okay, done with this? Yeah. Next, payment voucher is done. Receipt voucher. This is issued by the registered person who is receiving the advance from the recipient for the goods or services to be supplied in future. So as a proof, the supplier has to issue the receipt voucher to the recipient. No? Yes. When an advance payment is received for the goods to be supplied or for the services to be rendered in the future, the receipt voucher will be given by supplier to recipient. And in the future, when supply actually takes place, the supplier has to issue invoice to the recipient, guys. Okay, sir. Next, refund voucher. Now, assume assume I am the supplier, you are the recipient. I had received advance from you telling that I will supply goods after 2 months. But actually, supply didn't take place. So there is no supply, no invoice issued. In that case, I need to return back the money to you. Yes. If not, you will chase me. Okay, you will come chasing me. Yes, sir. So when I'm returning back the money to you without supply and without invoice, I need to issue a refund voucher document to you, guys. Is that clear? This is when advance money is received, but no supply, no invoice is issued. In that case, I need to return the money back. And while returning back, I need to issue refund voucher. The name itself will tell you what is that and when it is issued, guys. When advance is received, receipt voucher. If it is returned back without supply and without invoice, then refund voucher. Okay. Then coming to delivery challan. Delivery challan is issued or generated when there is a movement of goods without supply. For example, assume I am sending the goods for a job work. Once job work is done, the goods will come back to me. Or there is a movement of goods from one branch to another branch within the state, which is not separately registered. So is it a supply? No. In that case, what document should we generate? Delivery challan. Or else, sir, when goods are removed from supplier's place, it has to be delivered to the recipient's place. But when goods are removed from supplier's place, the quantity is not known, sir, because it is a liquid gas. So the quantity will be known only when it is delivered to the recipient. In that case, when the goods are removed from supplier place, it will move along with the delivery challan. Once it is delivered to the recipient, it is a supply. Yes, tax invoice has to be issued. Tax invoice has to be issued, people. Okay, sir. Then coming to e-way bill, issued by every registered person who causes the movement of goods through a transporter only when the consignment value is more than 50,000 paise. So consignment value of more than 50,000 means it is nothing but value of supply plus GST. So consignment value is nothing but value of supply plus GST, guys. Is that clear? So for example, assume value of supply is 48,000 plus GST is 6,000. Should we generate e-way bill? Yes, consignment value is 54,000. So we need to generate e-way bill. And who should generate e-way bill? The first option is for the supplier, whom we also call it as consignor, or the recipient, whom we also call it as consignee. If not, transporter. Any of these three persons can generate the e-way bill. And about e-way bill, we will learn in detail. We have a separate chapter for it. Okay. Then coming to credit note and debit note, very important documents, guys. So you have to be ultra attentive now. Be ultra attentive. I will also try to explain you through the concept of accounts and all here. Okay. So when will credit note be issued as per section 34 subsection 1 means? Guys, whenever already invoice is issued, but in the invoice already excess amount is charged or excess tax amount is charged. Now, Sir, whatever excess we already charged, can we call the recipient, tell, give your invoice, I will change the amount and give? No. So how can we cancel that extra amount is by issuing credit note, guys. So even though supply has already taken place, invoice is already issued, with respect to whatever extra amount is already charged, the supplier can issue the credit note to the recipient. So when is it? We will see here. Issued by registered person, that is supplier, to the recipient. In which all situations? Any of this situation. Where the taxable value in the invoice is more than the taxable value of supply. So in the invoice already more amount is charged, or else the tax charged in the invoice is more than the actual tax payable in respect of such supply, or else whenever there is a sales returns or any damage where the recipient is giving back the goods to the supplier, or where the goods or services have been found to be deficient, that is damaged. The last one, the discount as per section 15 subsection 3 clause B, that is the discount which is given by the supplier to the recipient after the supply, whether it was agreed or not, it is given by the supplier to the recipient after the supply. So for that amount of discount plus GST on it, the supplier has to issue credit note to the recipient. Okay, sir. So in simple, if I have to explain, just a minute. Yeah. You can see, guys, as per the invoice, this is the amount charged, whereas actually this is the amount which was supposed to be charged. Okay. So value of supply as per the invoice is 10 lakh, but actual amount to be charged was 9 lakh. So already 1 lakh more is charged in the invoice. Yes. So we need to do minus 1 lakh. For that, we will issue which document? Credit note. We will not change anything in the invoice. We will issue the credit note linking it to the original invoice. Okay. Then assume the tax amount charged in the invoice is 1 lakh, whereas actually it was supposed to be charged only 80,000. So 20,000 more is already charged. So we need to do minus 20,000. How do we do it? By issuing credit note. Or else the tax rate charged, assume, is 18%, but actually it was supposed to be charged only at 12%. So already 6% more is charged. So what should we do now? Minus 6% by issuing credit note, guys. Got it? Yes, sir. Next, debit note. Debit note is, sir, already invoice is issued, but the amount charged in the invoice is less, sir. So we need to charge more. What do? We will issue debit note. So as per section 34 subsection 3, issued by the registered person to the recipient in the following cases. Where the taxable value in the invoice is less than the actual taxable value, or the tax charged in the invoice is less than the actual tax to be charged. Okay. So let me explain this with an example. Okay. So these three are for debit note. Assume in the invoice the actual amount charged is 10 lakh, but actually it was supposed to be 12 lakh. So 2 lakh less is charged. So for that 2 lakh, we will issue what? Debit note. Or else the tax amount charged in the invoice is 1 lakh, but actually it was supposed to be 1 lakh 20,000. So we have charged less 20,000. So for the remaining 20,000, whatever short we have charged, we need to issue what? Debit note. The last one is, assume the tax rate charged in the invoice is 18%, but actually it was supposed to be 40%. So it is less charged in the invoice. So for 22%, we need to issue debit note. That is the difference. Got it? Yes, guys. So I will also try to explain you why credit note, why debit note, because students might get confused between credit note and debit note. Yes, I will just try to explain it. First, credit note. Assume, guys, in the books of supplier, I am the supplier, you are the recipient. I have already passed the entry in my books. It is a credit sales. Let us assume it is a credit sales. Recipient to sales, 10 lakh, 10 lakh. So after this entry in my books, you are supposed to pay me how much? 10 lakh. You are a debtor in my books. You are liable to pay me 10 lakh. Okay. But after that, assume there was a sales returns or a discount allowed. So I need to pass an entry for it. Sales or sales returns or discount allowed account debit 1 lakh to recipient. Okay. So this will bring down your liability, whereas my asset. Yes. So I'm giving a credit to recipient 1 lakh. So after this entry, you are liable to pay how much for me? Only 9 lakh. So in my books, the recipient net debit balance is only 9 lakh. So for this entry, what did I do? I gave credit to recipient's account in my books. Who am I? Supplier. So when in supplier's book, when recipient account is credited, we issue credit notice. For how much? 1 lakh. For this entry, recipient account is credited. Accordingly, supplier has to issue credit note to whom? To the recipient for 1 lakh. Hope you understood. Same way. Let us discuss about debit note. Assume already in my books, that is supplier's book. Who am I? Hello, who am I? Not Vikas, supplier. Yes. So assume in my books already entry is passed, recipient to sales, credit sales, 10 lakh, 10 lakh. So now you are liable to pay me 10 lakh. Okay. But later we realized that, oh, it was supposed to be 12 lakh. So I have charged only 10 lakh. So 2 lakh less. So I am passing again the same entry I am passing for another 2 lakh. Recipient to sales, 2 lakh, 2 lakh. So after this, your account is having a debit balance of 12 lakh in my books. So you are supposed to pay me totally how much? 12 lakh. Okay. So for 10 lakh, I would have already issued invoice. But for this 2 lakh, I need to issue what now? Debit note. So whenever recipient's account is debited in supplier's book after issuing invoice. So for this invoice would have already been issued. So after that, again recipient account is debited in supplier's book. In that case, the supplier has to issue debit note to whom, guys? Supplier has to issue debit note to the recipient for 2 lakh. Is that clear? So hope you understood when credit note, when debit note, and why is it? Why are we using that credit note and debit note name, guys? Actually, whatever I just now explained, it is an accounting concept, but still I explained you so that you will exactly know when credit note has to be issued and when debit note and why. Okay, sir. Fine. And whenever a credit note has been issued by the supplier to the recipient, he need to disclose the details of credit note in the return, that is GSTR 1, which he will file for the month in which credit note is issued. I repeat. Assume I have issued credit note in Jan month for the supply which already happened in November. So in Jan, I am issuing credit note. So for Jan month, I will file GSTR 1 in February. So in that GSTR 1, I have to give the details of this credit note. But I can also give it later. Later means within 30th November of next financial year or actual date of filing annual return, whichever is earlier, guys. Okay, let us learn that provision first. So 34 subsection 1 talks about credit note when it has to be issued, and 34 subsection 2 talks about the declaration of the credit note. Any registered person who has issued a credit note must declare the details of such credit note in the return for the month during which such credit note was issued. Okay, but can he issue later also, or can he give the details later also? Yes, but not later than 30th November of the following financial year or date of furnishing the relevant annual return, whichever is earlier. And the liability will be adjusted accordingly, means the tax liability will come down. Tax liability will come down, right? Yes. So because of the credit note, the tax liability of the person will come down or increase. It will come down. The GST liability will come down, guys. Because we are issuing credit note in order to reduce the amount. Got it? So it is a loss actually to the government. So that is why they are giving more and more time to the supplier to disclose the details of credit note so that they will enjoy the money. Time value of money. Correct? Now, if I already paid excess tax, so if I give the details of credit note later, till then government will enjoy that money, no? Yes, sir. So credit note details can be given even later, guys. Okay. So within what time, sir? Let us discuss it. I have put some examples here. Assume, guys, the original invoice was issued in the month of December, that is 10th December. So the financial year is 25-26. And the credit note with respect to this original invoice is issued in the month of February 2026, which fall in the same financial year. So the credit note details has to be given in which month? GSTR 1. So the credit note details has to be given in GSTR 1 of February, which will be filed in March 2026. Yes. But can it be given later also? Yes. But within 30th November of next financial year, that is 30th November of 2026, or actual date of filing the annual return for 25-26, whichever is earlier. That is the deadline to give the credit note details, guys. You can give it in February month GSTR 1 only. But can you give it later also? Yes, within this time. Okay. One more example. Assume the original invoice date is 10th December, which fall in financial year 25-26. For this, to reduce the value, the credit note is issued on 25th April, which will fall in 26-27. That is financial year 26-27. So, this credit note details can be given in GSTR 1 of April 2026, which will be filed in May. But can it be given later also? Yes, but within 30th November of next financial year. Please be careful. The credit note is issued in 26-27. Correct. So we need to take 30th November of next financial year. That is the financial year 27-28, which is the 30th November 27. Hope you're understanding. The credit note is issued in the financial year 26-27. Okay, because it is in April 2026. Please be careful. So we have time to give the details of credit note till when? 30th November of next financial year. Our actual date of furnishing the annual return for 26-27. That is the year in which credit note is issued. Got it? Yes. Okay, fine. Now coming to debit note. So as credit note will reduce the tax liability of a person, government is ready to wait. Okay, because they will not lose anything. No, yes. In fact, actually their tax revenue is coming down. So that is why they are trying to push it as late as possible, guys. Sir, what about debit note? Actually, debit note will bring more tax revenue to the government. So they are not ready to wait. So whenever debit note is issued, in the same month GSTR 1, the details of debit note has to be disclosed. Sir, can I give it later like for credit note? No, no. For debit note, no extended time, guys. So let me read it. Any registered person who has issued a debit note in relation to supply of goods or services or both must declare the details of such debit note in the return for the month during which such debit note was issued, and the tax liability will be adjusted upwards accordingly. So the tax liability of a person will increase. So you can just see here, because of debit note, will our tax liability increase or decrease? It will increase. It will increase, which will bring more revenue to the government. So whenever debit note is issued, the details has to be given in same month GSTR 1, guys. Let us discuss. Assume the original invoice was issued in December, that is 10th December 2025. Whereas with respect to this invoice, a debit note is issued on 25th February 2026. So the financial year 25-26. The year in which the invoice debit note is issued is 25-26. Okay. Assume in the original invoice, the amount is 10 lakh plus GST 1.8 lakh, 18% I have taken. Then in the debit note, 2 lakh plus 18% on that, 36,000. Okay, sir. So this debit note details has to be given in GSTR 1 of February only. Sir, can I give it later? No such options. No such options, guys. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Next, one more example. Assume the original invoice is issued on 10th December 2025, which fall in financial year 25-26. So the invoice is issued for 10 lakh plus GST at 18%, which comes to 1 lakh 80,000. Then for the same supply, again a debit note is issued on 25th April 2026. Okay, same dates, whatever I had taken for credit note, no, same dates I am taking here. Okay, so debit note is issued for 2 lakh plus GST 18%, that is 36,000. Okay, sir. And the debit note details has to be given in GSTR 1 of April 2026, guys. Can I give it later? No, sorry. And you have to pay 36,000 more now. Here also, you have to pay 36,000 more. Got it? For which month, sir? For year, it is for February, and year it is for April. So for February, you need to pay on or before 20th of March, whereas for April, it is on or before 20th of May, guys. Assuming the person is following monthly returns as per section 9. Okay. Now, sir, for recipient, this is from supplier's point of view. I will also explain from recipient point of view what is the deadline to claim credit. Important, guys. So deadline to claim credit is given in section 16 subsection 4. Yes. What is the deadline to avail the credit, guys? 30th November of next financial year or actual date of filing annual return. Same like this one. Same like for giving the details of credit note, whatever deadline is there, no? Same deadline is given to the recipient to avail the credit as per section 16 subsection 4. Okay. Now let us try to connect these cases. Okay. This case I will explain from recipient's point of view. As per section 16.4, what is the deadline? So to claim a credit of 1,80,000, what is the maximum time limit available for recipient? Okay. So this invoice is issued on 10th December 25. So that means financial year is 25-26. Okay. So to claim 1,80,000 credit, what is the maximum deadline for recipient? 30th November of next financial year. Okay. So this financial year is 25-26. So 30th November of 2026 or actual date of filing annual return for the year 25-26. Actual date of filing annual return in GSTR 9. Whichever is earlier. That is the maximum deadline to claim the credit of 1,80,000 to the recipients. Okay. Sir, what about 36,000, which is with respect to debit note? Recipient can claim a credit of 36,000 also, but within what time? Debit note is issued in the financial year 26-27. So the maximum deadline to claim 36,000 credit to the recipient is 30th November of next financial year, is that is 2027, because here debit note is issued in the financial year 26-27. So 30th November of next financial year means 30th November 2027, guys. Or actual date of filing annual return for 26-27, that is financial year 26-27, whichever is earlier. Hope you understood. Hope you understood. Is that clear? Yes, sir. Whereas here, to claim this entire credit, as both of them will fall in the same financial year, guys, the deadline would be 30th November of next financial year, that is 30th November 2026, or actual date of filing returns, annual returns for the year 25-26, whichever is earlier. Within that time, this entire credit has to be claimed by recipient, guys. Because here, both invoice as well as debit note is issued in the same financial year. Got it, people? Yes. Chal. Fine. So I guess this is all about. Then, yeah, we have discussed all this. Next, the last one, Rule 46A, where a registered person is supplying taxable as well as exempted goods or services or both to an unregistered person, that is single recipient who is unregistered. In that case, instead of issuing two separate document, tax invoice and bill of supply, can we issue one invoice come bill of supply? Yes. When for the same recipients, taxable as well as exempt goods or services are supplied, instead of issuing two separate document, we can issue one invoice come bill of supply, guys. Is that clear? Yes, sir. So we have covered section 31 to 34 in this chapter, guys. Come to the section list. We will just mark it quickly. Yes, under CGST Act. So in this chapter, we have covered section 31, 32, 33, and 34, guys. Done? Yes, sir.